Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage Live. And we are so excited to dive in with a subject that we love to talk about. And that is what it looks like, what happens when a marriage begins to heal. And if you're out there today and you're like, yes, I want that healing in my marriage. I've been longing for that. We've been looking for answers. We've been trying to bring about that healing. Like, what could it look like? What does it look like? And if you're out there looking for hope today, this is exactly the place you need to be.
Yes. Hey, everybody. We are Scott and Rachel. We do help committed Christian couples finally end the cycles of conflict and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. And so if you're watching on Facebook, say hello, give us a thumbs up, let us know you're here. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss any of our content. We are here to encourage your Christian marriage. And so the problem that we see in so many couples that we work with and the ones we've worked with over the past 20 years in the context of different contexts, we see different types of vicious cycles that couples can find themselves whirling round and round again. And I remember hearing someone tell me yesterday, it feels like we're in the spin cycle of the washing machine. We're just going round and round and round, and we're never really getting anywhere. And some of those cycles might look like the wife feels very much not cherished by her husband. She feels ignored. She does not feel loved or pursued. And so she can really start to be a nag or disrespectful or very impatient or treat her husband with contempt or like one of the children. And then he can feel very disrespected. And in that pain, he's going to withdraw from his wife. And then she's going to feel even more, I should say, even less loved, right? Another vicious cycle that we see so often with couples is we see this conflict avoidance, where one of the people don't really like conflict at all. If they're in their personality, so they avoid it. They want to just say, you're right, whatever you want, honey. And inside they're seething with frustration and with resentment. And so the more conflict that they avoid and the more they withdraw, the more the other person sort of chases them and pursues them and almost goes about it to push their buttons so that they can get a rise out of them because they want some kind of connection, even if it's a negative one. And we see these types of cycles. There's so many others we could describe over and over again. And so when you're in that vicious cycle and when you can start to break out of the vicious cycle, that's where so much hope lies. So much can happen. And that we get to witness that every single day with the clients that we work with. And it's so fun, isn't it?
It truly is, especially if it's been like a deep-seated vicious cycle. And sometimes it's more than one. Sometimes there's multiple ones. It can get really confusing when that's the case. But here is the heart of it. And when a marriage is struggling, when you're in those vicious cycles, you are starving. Your marriage is starving. You are personally starving because God gave you the closest, most intimate relationship that is far different, is far grander than even your best of friends other places. The marriage relationship was designed by God to be that closest one. And when a marriage is struggling, you're not whole. You personally are struggling. There's no disconnect between the two. And your marriage is struggling at the same time. It's not being nourished. In fact, when you're not giving to the other person what they need for whatever reason, they are starving and you are starving because most likely you aren't getting it back either. And that is why a lot of times people get stuck there. They'll say things like, I'm done. I'm just so frustrated. I'm just so tired. I just can't handle this anymore. Of course you can't, because you're starving and the marriage is starving. And so guys, this is what it looks like for a lot of people, honorable people, honorable Christians that realize they got to this place. They don't know how they got there. They wish that it wasn't that way. They know that God has something in his heart better for them than the way they've been doing it. And they wonder, what are we doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And so what happens most of the time is they, with all of their heart, really, really try to give everything they can to their spouse of what they would most need. And therein lies the problem a lot of times. This is what I really want. Probably my spouse needs it too. That's not the case. Men and women are different despite what our culture says. They have different needs. They have different ways of understanding things. And if you are trying to, with whole heart, with God on your side, trying to give to them with everything you can, what they need based on what you think they need, it could very well be like shooting yourself in the foot. because it's not giving to them what they need. And the marriage will continue to stay in those vicious cycles, and it will continue to starve. You may also, though, pick up a book or get some insight from a friend, and you're like, oh, that's so true. I need to give to my husband this or my wife this, and it's a great piece of the puzzle. And then you try it, and nothing changes right away. And you start to get frustrated, and you start to go back to those vicious cycles, or you just give up and say, see, I tried, it didn't work. Either case, guys, what is happening is you're not really getting to the place where you're nourishing the other person and nourishing the marriage. But when you do, when you can really get to that place where you're giving to them and your marriage starts to get that nourishment that it's been longing for, everything changes and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And going back to that malnourishment idea, I think about people that I've known and worked with in other contexts, and they're so physically malnourished, literally. They're wasting away. They've got muscles that are they have wasted away. And what they're trying to do is they feed themselves a lot of sugar and a lot of candy, trying to bulk up, trying to give them the right calories. And it's like, if you're feeding yourself the wrong thing or feeding your spouse the wrong thing, it doesn't work. You'll stay malnourished when what you really need is protein, when you really need micronutrients, right? And so it's that same idea. If you're giving the other person what you need, but not necessarily what they need.
I like it when you talk about micronutrients, though. It's really cute.
You're shoving the wrong food down their throat,
so true,
right? And here's
right.
the thing, y'all. We're neurobiologically wired for connection. God created us for connection. First of all, connection with him, and then connection with people, and especially our spouse. And then, of course, connection with his beautiful creation. And when the closest relationship that you have is malnourished and there's disconnection there, no wonder you're so frustrated. No wonder you feel so angry or so hopeless, so lost. And then it's so easy in that hurt and pain to lash out and to make it worse. Yeah. But what we get to see with the clients that we work with, when they start to understand the nutrients that their spouse needs and start to feed them what they actually need instead of what they think they need or what they need, it's kind of like a dead plant that has been shriveled up in the hot, hot sun and is just about to die. And then when you give it that drink of water, and within hours, you can see that plant come back to life, stand a little taller and straighter. And guys, we're here to tell you what we have found with working with our clients. It does not have to take forever to get a marriage turned around where you're starting to nourish and the life starts to come back. You both stand a little taller. You both see the sun a little bit brighter. Okay. It's so exciting to witness when we get things in alignment and we start nourishing the other person and nourishing the marriage instead of starving it. Yeah. Anything can happen, because here's what's happening in our culture. So we are so tied to our devices and our technology and news and media and social media that we've lost the connection with the person sitting right next to you. How many times have the two of you been sitting on the couch and you're both scrolling on your phones and you're looking down and you're not engaging with each other, but you're engaging and interfacing with, whoever and whatever out there. And then no wonder when you get done with that, you feel more anxious, more depressed, more frustrated with the state of your marriage. It's like the nourishment that needs to happen here in the marriage needs to happen with human connection. It needs to happen with devices away and at a heart level, right?
It's so true. And so, guys, what it looks like when a marriage begins to heal is it's beautiful. It's so glorious. It's so wonderful, because and for us, we're so confident in what God has in his heart for marriage, that when you get people reconnected to the belief and the dream of what God has in store for them, and they start to a little bit of nourishment, that plant starts to come back to life so quickly. And I love hearing comments like, I cannot believe how quickly things have changed. I cannot believe how where we were a few weeks ago, and now I feel so much closer to my spouse. I never dreamed that change could happen this quickly in so short amount of time, and that I would feel like I've got my best friend back. It's so fun what we get to do, and it's so glorious when we see that. And it's not to say that even when you start to reconnect and the plant starts to grow, that everything is solved. And that's where usually people need outside support, because you can easily but you did this, and this hurt happened, and this frustration, and what about the vicious cycle we were in for 5 years? So a lot of times you do need that outside support at that point. And it's not to say that it's easy. You do have to work through some things and you have to get on the same page about stuff. But here is the beautiful thing. When you start to nourish the marriage, the good feelings come back quickly. They do. And it's so fun to just say, go have a date night and don't talk about the junk. Just go have fun together. You forgot to have fun. And when you have those good feelings coming back and then you go have fun, it feels really good. It feels pretty amazing, as a matter of fact. And so, guys, really, when a marriage begins to heal, it's one of the most beautiful, God-honoring things that you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And maybe you've been longing for that. Maybe you've been wondering, is that even possible for you? And I would tell you that it is, because herein is the truth that we have found. When you replace the bad cycles, the vicious cycles, with really good cycles, this is what it looks like even more, just to give you a zeroed in HD view. It's like when a man begins to get what he needs at his core, he wants to give back to his wife what she desires. And so really that woman giving to her husband, nourishing him, she's starting to get pursued again. She's feeling honored. She's feeling cherished. And she's starting to realize, oh my goodness, when I give to my husband, I get tenfold back with what I give him. And this is exactly how God designed it. Mm-hmm. That it's not selfish, but it almost could feel selfish that you're giving to the other person and you're getting back tenfold. Mm-hmm. And that's what's amazing about a marriage when it begins to heal. I could go on and on about that, but I want to give you a chance to speak to it also.
Yeah. It is so fun. It's a joy. And honestly, it's our purpose and passion in this season of our life as God's really put this call on our life. And we feel like the best way to build the kingdom of God is to restore Christian marriages and to build and strengthen Christian families, because it's through the family that God really advances his kingdom. And so if you're in a hopeless state, if you guys have found yourselves in a vicious cycle, if you feel like your marriage has been starving or malnourished, then we want you to reach out and book a call. That's what we're here for, to help give you the clarity and value on that call. It's a complimentary call. You can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call and pick a 45-minute slot that you have time to speak with us and really put everything else aside, where you can really focus and invest in your marriage. And honestly, it could be the best 45 minutes that you do invest, because let's face it, this world is chaotic. There's craziness going on. There's hurts and disconnection all around us. But if things at home can feel calm and safe, if things in the marriage can be nourished, like the two of you can be unstoppable, and God's kingdom will be built. And so we want to encourage you in that way to go ahead and book that call at turnaroundmarriage.com/call.
Yeah. And let me just add, there's some people out there that are, and you're so right, Rachel. I appreciate you sharing that. There's some people that are at the end of this that are hearing, okay, yeah, that's for couples. Okay. But what about for me? My husband's not willing to do any help. He's not really to get counseling. He's not really to talk about it. What about them? What would you say for somebody like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Book the call for yourself, because what we have found is that it only takes one person to save a marriage. We used to think it always took two, and now in doing this for a long time, we have found that it really isn't true. A marriage cannot always be saved with one, but it can be. And the thing is why not give it a shot and try? The brave one, the one who's willing to put in the work, the one who has the bandwidth to do it, is the one that needs to step forward and take that step of courage and choose to.
Right.
Choose to do what they can to heal it.
You're so right. And this is the bottom line with that is, if one person will nourish the marriage, if one person will nourish the other person, radical change can happen. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when you give it, because one person is nourishing it, one person nourishing it is better than nobody. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, a lot of times for the other person, that spark can come back. That tree can start to grow as a result of that nourishment coming back for them. Mm-hmm. We see it all the time. And so even if you're just one out there, we want to encourage you to book that call at turnaroundmarriage.com/call.
Yep. Until next time, y'all, have a wonderful day.
Take care.
We'll see you then.
Thanks.